Then I watched over the ensuing days this whole sort of everybody running around with their hair on fire search, knowing full well that it was futile, hoping against hope that I was wrong, but knowing in my bones that I wasn't. And so it certainly wasn't a surprise today. And I just feel terrible for the families that had to go through all these false hopes that kept getting dangled, as it played out.
They knew, ladies and gentlemen. They knew, and they said nothing. Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. Saturday, oh what a day. We're rocking all week with you. These days are all right, sorry, but all right, I got carried away there. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, half of Thursday. They said nothing, and they knew the entire time that this sub imploded. Yet they allowed this news story to run wild. They allowed it to dominate the airwaves, the radio waves, everything. You couldn't put on a single news channel, a single radio station, without hearing about the missing Titanic sub for days and days on end. We were sitting here, me, you all, on the edge of our seats, glued to our seats, watching a literal countdown. Something like, you remember during the Rona, when they had like the death count ticker at the bottom of CNN? We watched a literal countdown of how much oxygen these people supposedly had left in their sub. Meanwhile, they knew since day one, since the very beginning. By the time we even heard about this story to begin with, they already knew the outcome, and they said nothing. Now, I have a lot of information that I have been having to sift through. And as far as I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, from everything that I have seen thus far, they did not let the families know that they knew. They drugged the families along just like us, giving them a false sense of hope, stringing them along as if their family could still be alive, going over these possibilities. And imagine being the wife of one of these people on board. Imagine being the family, the mother, the father, the daughter, the son. And you're sitting there for days on end thinking that maybe your loved one is dying a slow, horrible death in a tin can at the bottom of the ocean. Meanwhile, the Navy, the Coast Guard, everyone already knew. They already knew. And listen, I understand that just because they picked up on this implosion, yeah, I think they should go out there and verify it. But they knew the coordinates. They knew that the implosion that they picked up on was at the exact spot, at the exact time, where and when this Titanic sub went missing. There's no excuses. People will try to make excuses. I'm already preparing myself to see them, but honestly, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the excuses. I understand you want to hold out hope and you still want to see and find. Yes. I'm not saying that they should just be open and shut case. We picked it up on our radar. We're not going to check, but you let us know something. All of the excuses that anyone can make for them flew out the window when the Coast Guard had daily press conferences where they would tell us things like, oh, we picked up on tapping sounds that probably came from the sub. It was a banging sound every 30 minutes. Yeah, that's what we picked up on. They're down there. Yeah, see, yeah. They're sitting here every day giving us updates. Yeah, we picked up on a sound. Yeah, this oxygen would be at this level. But y'all knew that the damn thing imploded. So any excuses that could be made for them, it flies right out the window when they come on television and tell everyone we're hearing tapping sounds that are possibly coming from the sub. What about the other sound that y'all picked up on? You don't want to tell anybody about that? You had us sitting here Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for like 5 days straight, looking at a literal timer on the bottom of the television that says when these people are going to die. Meanwhile, you knew that they imploded days ago. Not only is that just, it's messed up for the families involved. Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating for me, and it's frustrating for you at home. And now we realize that this story was basically used as a distraction to distract us from something. And I have my ideas what they were distracting us from, but I don't get too political on this channel. I'm sure some people will leave what they think it was distracting people from down in the comments below, and some of those people will probably be right. But at the end of the day, they weaponized this story and used it against us in a way. And it's funny because people are always saying, this news story is a distraction, that news story is a distraction, that's a distraction. And I get so fed up with it because not everything's a distraction. Plus, I'm able to pay attention to multiple things at once. You know, most people should be able to, but then again, we're surrounded by a bunch of idiots. But in this case, after the boy who cried wolf 1,000 times about distractions, we have a legitimate distraction on our hands. And they got us. This was a fascinating story. It still is. That's the crazy part. Now the story has taken a whole new turn. Because now that we know what happened to the sub, we want to know why. And we want to know why the information about an imploding was covered up for days on end and only released at a convenient time once the oxygen, so-called, ran out. But you know, I usually hate hearing celebrities weigh in on news stories because they always have brain-dead takes. But I have really been enjoying what James Cameron has had to say about this entire situation. If you don't know who James Cameron is, he's the director of the Titanic. Made movies like Terminator, Avatar, True Lies, I believe, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's a film director, but not just a director. He has a lot of experience at deep sea diving. He's dived down to the Titanic like 30-something times. He's gone, I believe, 3 to 4 times deeper than the Titanic in his own sub. His sub was built way better than the Ocean Gate sub. But I find what he has had to say really interesting and really insightful, but also from what he says, he knew what happened to the sub since Monday. So the Navy and the Coast Guard, they knew since Sunday. James Cameron said him and other people in the community, the deep sea diving submersible community, that they knew since Monday, and they've already been passing the information around, still hoping for a miracle, but they basically already knew what happened. But I want you all to listen to what he has to say, because like I said, I find it really insightful and interesting, coming from a guy who has made this trip, coming from a guy who has gone deeper in the ocean than I believe anyone else in the world at this point. Maybe there's one person alive that's gone deeper than him, but I'm not sure. But anyway, let's go ahead and watch this clip, hit that thumbs up button, then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Ocean Gate shouldn't have been doing what it was doing. I think that's pretty clear. I wish I had been more vocal about that, but I think I was unaware that they weren't certified because I wasn't really studying it. I wasn't really interested. Stockton Rush asked me if I wanted to go out there and dive this season. You know, I wasn't interested. There was a lot of concern about this outfit and this sub. A lot of concern, even to the extent that I wasn't involved in it because I was making Avatar 2 at the time, but a lot of them got together and wrote a letter to Ocean Gate and said, you have to certify. You cannot take people down. It's irresponsible, and it could lead to catastrophe. Monday morning, when I first found out about the incident, got on a whole bunch of calls and emails. It's a small community. Within an hour and a half, I had the following information. They were on descent. They were at 3,500 feet. They lost comms and tracking. The last one being the critical one, because the transponder that's used to track a sub during descent and on the bottom is a fully autonomous system. It's in its own pressure housing, and it has its own battery power. So for them to lose comms and tracking at the same time, sub was gone. There was no question in my mind. For days, I tried to run other scenarios that could account for it. I could come up with nothing. So the next thing I did was contacted a few more people and managed to track down, there are acoustic networks around. Some are research, some are intelligence. We got confirmation within an hour that there had been a loud bang at the same time that that comms were lost. A loud bang on the hydrophones, loss of transducer or transponder, loss of comms. I knew what happened. Sub imploded. I sent emails to everybody I know. I said, we've lost some friends. The sub has imploded. It's on the bottom in pieces right now. I sent that out Monday morning. I never believed in that technology of wound carbon fiber, wound filament, cylindrical hull. I thought it was a horrible idea. I wish I'd spoken up, but I assumed somebody was smarter than me, because I'd never experimented with that technology, but it just sounded bad on its face, because we make pressure hulls out of contiguous material: steel, titanium, ceramic, acrylic. And so you can model it, you can do finite element analysis of it, and you understand the yield properties, you understand the number of cycles that it can take. But you can't do that with a composite material, because it's two dissimilar materials, sort of bonded together. And so we all knew that the danger was delamination and progressive failure over time, with microscopic water ingress and fatigue, what they call cycling fatigue. And we knew that if the sub passed its pressure test, it wasn't going to fail on the first dive. It might fail on dive 7, or I don't know what they're at, but it's going to fail over time, which is insidious. You don't get that with steel or with titanium. Now there's one wreck lying next to the other wreck for the same damn reason.
I've been seeing a lot of people weigh in on this story, a lot of experts and people like that, but I feel like James Cameron has provided some of the most useful information throughout all of this. Maybe I'll do another video or two showing you some other things that he has said. But going to a point that I was making in a prior video, people had been asking me and asking around on the internet, why did this happen now? Because you see this sub, this Ocean Gate sub, it had taken journeys before. And people were wondering, well, why didn't it implode back then? But it imploded now. And James Cameron answered some of those questions. I mean, for one, this guy built this sub with an entirely different material than is usually used to build subs. Also, the shape of this sub. I don't know if you've seen the shape of James Cameron's sub. I'll show you here. It's something about the angles and stuff that you gotta hit that just makes things right. When you have this just circular curved object, made out of the material it was made out of, it was bound to happen. So it looks as if over time, the wear and tear is what ultimately caused this to happen. So yeah, you could take it down on a dive or two, but eventually this thing was going to give out. And that's the difference between this sub and a lot of the other subs that people use, that have been regulated, that have been, certified, and you name it, that have gone through all the proper protocols. We already know that this guy did not follow the proper procedures. We know that he was warned. We know that he didn't use the right material. he did everything outside of the box. And, you know, some people think that's cool. You know, you're an innovator. You've created something new. And I understand in order to create something new, that sometimes you do have to step outside of the box. Sometimes you have to go against the rules. I understand that, but you don't put other people's lives at risk in the process. And that's what this dude did. There's no reason why other people were allowed on board that ship, let alone him being on it himself. But it's crazy because I see a picture floating around on Twitter of this sub literally chilling in a parking lot. I kid you not, they stored this sub in like the parking lot. And I told you, Ocean Gate, the operation, it's ran out of like a back alleyway at a boat marina near the repair parts. It's a really low-key, weird operation. And it looks as if they were just storing their sub outside, allowing it to, you know, be out there in the elements. Getting rained on, birds flying by, crapping on it. You know what I mean? So, I don't know anything about subs. I just know that seeing this thing sitting in the back of a parking lot definitely makes me feel even worse about this entire situation. Because it shows you that, you know, they just... I don't want to say they didn't care, but they didn't care. They cared a lot in some ways, but totally didn't care in other ways. Let me know your thoughts about this, though, down in the comments below. Like I said, I got a lot of information about this story that I'm having to go through and piece together for you all, trying to verify some things as well. Let me know your thoughts, though, down below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.